You know, this was 1962. I was seen off Dar es Salaam Airport to London by a very big delegation. It was Julius Nyerere, it was Kenneth Kaunda, it was Oliver Tambo. So some people don't believe that story. They say, you. I said, those are the people who saw me off. It's the truth. It's a half-truth. It's because O.R. Tambo and Mwalim were seeing of Kenneth Kaunda. He was flying to London to negotiate for independence of Zambia. I just happened to be on the same plane. So it's the truth. I was seen off by those three. So off we went to England and so on, came back. The OAU had a committee called the Liberation Committee. So one of its meetings was held in Kampala, in Uganda, at the time that Idi Amin was there as head of state. So we attended the meeting, and Idi Amin kept interrupting. Ministerial meeting, and then he would come and they adjourn because His Excellency wants to address them. And he would, one message: we must intensify the struggle first in Angola, and after we finish there, we must go to Mozambique. After we finish in Mozambique, we go to Zimbabwe. Of course, we are very fed up with this Amin story. He's postponing the struggle in South Africa until whenever. Unfortunately, he says, Idi Amin, that all of the liberation movement delegations should not leave Kampala without meeting him. Fine. So indeed, we meet him. So OR must now present our case. Your Excellency, you can't say that. These things you've been saying. Why are you postponing our struggle? He said, my brother, let me explain. You see, this is called misinformation. The reason I was doing it all the time, because I want them, those other people, to listen. They will think our strategy is to go to Angola, and then Mozambique, and then Zimbabwe. What they don't know, our target is Cape Town. So, that's an important lesson from Idi Amin. And of course, many years later, South Africa is free. We have an appointment, we got a state visit to pay to Mali. At the time, President was President Konare. And he insists, well, the Malians insist, that on our delegation we must include the Minister of Sports. We couldn't quite understand why, but nevertheless we did. So we went to Mali, and we'd incorporated in our in the program that we must visit Timbuktu. And indeed, we visited Timbuktu. You remember there was a famous library there, the Ahmed Baba Library, with this tremendous store of books and manuscripts and so on, about everything, many things African. So we get to the library, Ahmed Baba, in Timbuktu, And really, it was a tiny little room. It was one room, not very big. And you see these books and manuscripts stacked on the table in the middle of the room. It's stacked like this, and some shelves on the walls. One, there was a SABC cameraman who was with us there. As we're walking around, he puts down his camera and he comes up to me and he says, "You can't allow this. You can't allow this. Let's do something." So I say to him, "No, but what have we done now?" He says, no, President. You see these books and these manuscripts, very valuable. They are going to get stolen, they are going to get messed up. So go do something, a proper library. So I said to him, okay, I hear you. So later we go back to Bamako, the capital, and have a bilateral meeting. So I said to President Konare, you must do something about that library. Because this extraordinary store of knowledge of the African continent will really disappear. You've got to build a proper library, So President Konare says, now President Mbeki, you know very well that Mali is poor. So I said, President, yes, I know. He says, therefore, I need advice from you. The people, particularly in the rural areas, they don't have clean water. Now, the advice I'm looking for from you is, the little money we have, do I deliver clean water to the people in the rural areas, or do I build Ahmed Baba Library? So I said, President, I will not answer your question, but let's agree. You deliver the water, we will deliver the library. So that's how we came to build the library, the Ahmed Baba Library in Timbuktu. And then at the same meeting, President Konare says, you know that next year, January, we are hosting the Africa Cup of Nations. So I said, yes, President, I know that. He says, we managed to collect enough money to build the stadium to host the matches. The stadia are ready, very well built, and all of that. But the money, we've run out of money. There are no buses to carry the teams. There are no sedans to drive around the officials. The telephone system can only take 20,000 telephone lines. And we've got no medical system, health system to support the tournament. And we have no money. So I said, but then, President, the best thing to do is we better go back to CAF and say, you can't host it. He says, no. We must host it. You, President, says Konare to me, you are the one who's talking about all the time about an African Renaissance. Now, how can we as Mali, as part of the Renaissance, we can't even host a soccer tournament? What kind of Renaissance is that? So, please, it's your job to make sure that the Africa Cup goes through very well. Now we understood why he had wanted the Minister of Sport. And so we've supplied the buses, we supplied the sedans, we supplied the health, we supplied the telephony. And indeed, the cup went off very well, but we had to carry that burden because Konare said, this is to prove your that you actually mean this African Renaissance. You can't have a Renaissance and you can't host a soccer tournament. So that was done. There are many other stories I can tell you. One day I get a message from the US Embassy here in Pretoria to say, George, that President Bush would like to talk to you. So I said, sure. And indeed he called. This was on the eve of the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And George W. Bush says to me, you know, what happens in a war, where, as you know, that we're saying we're going to go and get into Iraq because of these weapons of mass destruction. But you go to war, people die. And I don't want to be the one person who now has to go to talk to the American mothers and fathers that their daughters and sons have died. I really don't want to do that. But can't avoid it if there's a war. I wish we wouldn't go to war. And one other reason is because there's already a lot of anti-Americanism. If we go to war in Iraq, that'll get worse. And I don't want that. So I agree with him. I say, President, you're quite right on all counts. Therefore, don't go to war. Yeah. No, but does he have weapons of mass destruction? So I say, President, we sent a delegation to Iraq to talk to them about that and prepared a report. It's with your ambassador in New York. It's with Security Council. And our people who went to Iraq say there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That report is there in detail. Oh, he didn't know that, but he will check. Yeah. And then I made a mistake. He says to me, if only I can get a signal from Saddam that he doesn't have, then we won't go to war. The mistake I made is I didn't ask him what signal would it be, because we could get the signal from Saddam. I forgot. So after we put the phone down, I sent a message to his colleague in London, Tony Blair, to tell him about this, that George Bush phoned, and this is what we discussed. Please, can you get from him this, what signal does he want from Saddam? I know that the Prime Minister got the message. He never delivered to George Bush. Never delivered it. And so they went to war, and indeed found that there were no weapons of mass destruction. If we had known what signal George Bush wanted, and if Tony Blair had done his job of delivering our query, maybe there would not have been a war in Iraq in 2003. Then, of course, at some point here at home, my comrades said, look, we've had enough of you. Please go away. So, okay, I said, sure, all right. You are my bosses, I go. And some time after that, I see a missed call on the telephone system, and it's got a 021, starts 021, that's a Cape Town number. So I call the number, and somebody answers. So I say, look, I'm returning a call which came from this number. So he says to me, well, I can't tell who that is because this is the provincial headquarters of the ANC. So this is a general number, but it's extensions to a number of offices. So I can't tell who called. So I said, okay. All right, no, then that's fine. So he says, incidentally, who are you? So I tell him, and says, what company do you work for? That told me that it was time to retire. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, and thanks for coming.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king. I'm a king.